Off top, you ever heard of Archie Karas? Well, he's a guy who took $50, went to Vegas, turned that $50 into $40 million. He lost that money and then came up again pool sharking to $9 million. Look it up. But first, play the music.
This is the Domonique Foxworth Show.
All right, Charlie. I know you never heard of that guy.
Never.
Brand new.
Never.
Yeah,
that sounds some like old Vegas, like apocryphal history, but I'm sure it's true.
Yeah, I mean, well, it happened in the 90s, like early 90s. So it's not like it's some old 50s tale that just got blown up. Like, it seems to be pretty true. And there's like poker pros who corroborate the story. And it was a bunch of different games, but mostly poker on the first come up and then mostly pool on the second come up. He got like a $10,000 loan. Anyway, it's an interesting story. I mean, maybe somebody will make a movie one day. Maybe you should, Charlie. You look like a director. I don't know. You you look like you should be in film school. I think it's the glasses with the backwards hat. But obviously, I picked gambling for my off top this week because, I don't know, I've been thinking a lot about the suspensions for the Lions players. Jameson Williams, the most famous of the group, a former first round pick who missed a lot of last year with injury. And I honestly, I thought he was the best receiver in the draft, but he tore up his knee in that championship game. And he's going to miss 6 games, which is going to cost him about $300,000 for doing something that seems completely benign. He bet on some college football games from inside the facility. Had he done it anywhere else in the world, but on NFL property, he would not have got suspended. And the idea that he got a 6-game suspension to that seems outrageous. But I assume that he knew the rules, and I mean, I didn't know that rule,
right?
But I have to assume that they've told the players rules like that. So my guess is there's a start for him on the appeal, but none of that really matters as much as what matters is how like hypocritical the NFL's gambling positions are. And what I've come to like, I've thought about this a lot this weekend, and I think the NFL, like, they're being aggressive on these punishments. Obviously, we had the Ridley punishment. There were 4 other Lions players who got punished, none of them as famous as him. We had the Ridley for a whole season because he bet on his team, even though he was not impacting games. He was away from the team. But when I was in the league, gambling was like something that they like frowned upon. They would never get close to gambling. They did not encourage betting. They had to know in the back of their head that part of their ratings and part of their popularity is because of gambling, but they didn't want to get anywhere near it. So much so, I remember proposing that we do. We were talking about moving the Pro Bowl out of Hawaii, and I proposed that we do it in Vegas. And the owners slapped that down as quick as they possibly could. So now that we have it in Vegas, the draft in Vegas, and Pro Bowls in Vegas, I'm like, damn, how the tables have turned. But the thing that I think is interesting about them in this aggressive punishment is the reason why they want to stay away from gambling in the past, I think, is because they want to protect, and if you're not watching on YouTube, you should, but I'm doing air quotes, the integrity of the game. They want to protect the integrity of the game because they recognize that that is what separates us from a regular TV show. That's why sports are as popular as they are, because it's one of the few things that you have to watch live. It's not a regular scripted television show. It's like real drama that you have to watch live. And they want to protect that and not feel like it's being influenced anyway. And also protect the gamblers because they know that that's a big portion of their audience watching because they bet on games. But the interesting thing that I think that they had at some point is the cost benefit analysis. When we used to have those meetings when I was at the PA with the league about the future of the league, they would always talk about how their goal was to get to $25 billion in revenue. How are we going to get there? And they would point out different things, how they're going to increase revenue from here, increase revenue from there, and open up new avenues here, open up new avenues there. And one of the big, I guess, spigots of revenue that they never opened was gambling. and they opened it up. And what I have to imagine happened was the cost benefit analysis in their offices amongst the owners and amongst league executives was, if we open ourselves up to being affiliated with gambling after the 2018 Supreme Court decision to kind of, frankly, allow most states to have gambling if they want it. If we open ourselves up to that, at some point we are going to have a gambling scandal. Not we open ourselves up to a gambling scandal, not we might have a gambling scandal. I think if they are smart, that's the cost benefit analysis that they did, is that at some point we are going to have a legitimate gambling scandal that involves players or coaches or someone gambling on games that they are in and the outcomes that they can affect, whether they are betting on their team or against their team. It's going to happen. Is there enough money out there for it to be worth it for us to take that risk? That's the question they had to that's the question that they had to ask themselves. The conversation that they had to have is, we know this is going to happen. We don't know when it's going to happen. Is it worth exposing ourselves to that? And what can we do from now until it happens to discourage it from happening, or to position ourselves in such a way that it does not look like it's something that we accept, and it's not going to be something that sticks to us? And we've seen the NFL masterfully find a way to somehow keep the concussions issue from being a problem, and that they were hiding information. They were actively doing like cigarette company level practices where they knew that the game was destroying people's brains, and they were purposely misleading and hiding that information. That doesn't stick to them, in part because, I mean, y'all like watching football, but don't nobody actually care about the players. Like I was surprised that it hasn't had more of an impact. But when you step back and think about it, of course it's not going to have an impact, because it's a small segment of society that it actually hurts. The rest of us just love watching football. But it could really impact a huge portion of their population. So they must believe that there is so much money out there to be made, or they believe that they can position themselves in a way that no matter if it happens or when it happens, it's not going to stick to them, because it has to happen. They're cycling through thousands of players over the course of 10 years or so. Somebody going to do something dumb, and they're going to catch them, and how they respond to it and how they prepared for it is something that they should have already like planned for and should be acting on.
So this leads me to a bunch of questions for you, and I want to start at the beginning. So the first part I would ask is, let's assume you are 24-year-old Domonique Foxworth. You are a cornerback in the NFL. The NFL partners with gambling companies. It is legal in a lot of states. How do the teams or the league explain it to you? Because we know there's sort of morality rookie camp where Chris Carter goes in and,
rookie
scares
symposium.
people. Right. Yeah. Is there a morality camp where all of these rules are specifically explained to players so they know what they can do and what they cannot do?
There has to be. Like, I assume that they've added an extra breakout session to the rookie symposium. There are player development staff on every team that have weekly, I don't know how often it was, but regular meetings. I know when I was in the league, they had weekly meetings with the rookies. It wasn't when I was a rookie. They didn't start until afterwards, but they would have weekly meetings with the rookies through the offseason and into the season, where they would talk about anything from financial management to like being careful at the club and drinking and driving, like all the stuff that, like, frankly, players aside, that young adults struggle with.
Yeah.
Getting some freedom and consistently making smart and safe decisions. So I have to assume that they've had these conversations. Assuming that having a one-off conversation, that's the thing about the symposium. Always felt like to me it was a cover your own ass NFL move, not a move that was actually designed. And no disrespect to the people who put together the symposium or who administer the symposium. My assumption is that they are doing the best that they can. But the league's purpose of having the symposium is like, we told y'all, because they can't actually believe that you are going to like fully, and it's a lot to ask. You can't like undo for some players, a lifetime of education and 3 days. So it's a lot to ask. But I do think that since gambling is new, they had to put more of a focus on that. And I should have called, like, I know a couple of players, player development guys. I should have called them before this, which now I'll call them afterwards. And if there's anything worth talking about, I'll record something and we can put it in. But I have to assume that they mentioned that to him, especially something like what happened with Jameson Williams is
right.
You can't gamble in a facility. For the life of me, I can't understand why exactly that matters. But the only thing I could come up with is they don't want you like associated with the organization. Like they don't want you tweeting out like I just made this bet, or like Instagramming a photo from you in the hot tub at the Lions facility betting on stuff because they don't want that look. Or maybe it's also about protecting their sponsors if you're betting on a different site, or yeah, you're betting with someone that hasn't paid them enough money. They don't want to give them free promotion. Like all that stuff plays into it. I'm not exactly sure why it matters where Jameson Williams did it, but it's a $300,000 mistake that I have to assume somebody told him along the way, don't do it here.
So my next question, because that was, I think, is an important piece to get out there, is about how I want to go back to a Domonique Foxworth maxim, is that there are no absolutes, and absolutes are for idiots. That is sort of how I feel about these mini gambling scandals in the NFL. So let's go over the range of them really quickly, because first there was Josh Shaw. I think we can all say morally bad to go to Vegas and bet against your team when he was on the Cardinals, and that effectively ended his NFL career. We had Calvin Ridley, who was taking a break for mental health reasons and bet $200 to support his boys. It's his exact word, support my guys. And then we have this one with Jameson Williams, where it was not even betting on the NFL. And with those shades of gray, I think it's really easy to sort of feel bad for players who are seemingly betting on things that are completely irrelevant. You know, Jameson Williams and Calvin Ridley. But if they know the rules and know what's not okay, is it okay to just be like, sort of like, I don't really care that much. I want the NFL to enforce these rules? Because that's sort of where I fall on it.
Yeah, I assume most people do fall there. Is it okay? Yes, it's okay. Like, I don't think like you're a bad person, but I do think that what's happening is hypocritical and somewhat unjust. Like, this is what it comes down to oftentimes for me. And I take this position on a lot of things when we talk about union issues. And when we were talking about Draymond last week, when I was saying like, yeah, what you guys are doing is unprecedented. Do I agree that Draymond needs to be suspended? Probably. However, you need like solid justification. You can't say like this unprecedented thing where it's like, oh, but your body of work. They've never done that. They've never released a suspension document in the NBA before to say that we are partially basing this on your previous actions or your reputation for unsports. I don't remember the exact word, but generally, because what my point is in that situation is you're never protecting the one player, you're protecting the rights, because what will inevitably happen is you're giving them this power that at some point they'll wield in a way that you don't appreciate. So this is the same way I feel about this. Is we don't often think about players as labor. Yeah. Because labor is like the guy who's slaving away in an Amazon warehouse, which, yeah, being a pro football player, much better than working in an Amazon warehouse. However, there are 1 million plus people working in an Amazon warehouse. The difference between the people in the Amazon warehouse and the NFL player is the NFL player is a collection of all of them. What is that, like 500 Amazon workers is one NFL player, if that makes any sense. Like the amount of money that's going to them and the amount of resource they have access to, but the level of power is not any different. You know, so like this is what it comes down to. In the Amazon scenario, if one Amazon employee or a collection of Amazon employees are doing something that is against the rules, but we all believe to be benign, it's much easier for Amazon to get them up out of there because they have no value. They have no power. They have no leverage. This is the same thing in football. Nobody in that league has enough power or value or leverage to force the NFL to not be hypocrites. So the NFL, rather than try to make rules that would treat the players fairly, because I think we all would agree that $300,000 in a 6-game suspension is absurd for a guy who bet on a college football game in the facility. Yes,
Right.
it's breaking the
In a
rules,
vacuum.
but
In a
yeah,
vacuum.
right. Yes, it's breaking the rules, but it's absurd. To me, that feels like you're jaywalking, like walking at the wrong time, betting at the wrong time. But the precedent has been set. The power
Right.
is there. The leverage is there. And back to the original point, or my original thought is like, this is about the NFL trying to make all the decisions that they can in order to make themselves Teflon against the inevitable real gambling scandal and also discourage any players along the way from getting involved in it. And it does not matter who. It's like we're going to make example out of people, you know? It doesn't matter who pays the price up until then, but they're going to try to scare the life out of everybody. Whereas it just feels like to me, you've taken the cash to be in this world. Now you're in this world, and rather than deal with the potential risk and costs, you're going to just swing hard punishments at anybody who steps anywhere close to the line that you say they shouldn't cross.
The next point on this, though, because I think a lot of the narrative has been that this is unfair for the players and that the league is in bed with these gambling companies. Isn't that not the case, though? Because league brings in revenue gets split with the players. The cost benefit analysis overall, aren't the vast majority of players happy that this is going to raise the salary cap? They're going to get paid more. And while these rules are stupid, it is overall good for them because they're playing a game where they, risk immense bodily harm, but they get more money because X, Y, and Z gambling company is now paying for that.
Exactly. I mean, overall, for the difference is for the owners, it's 32 of them, and they pass the team on to their family members, or they sell it for billions of dollars. So yes, for all the players, but the problem is I don't get to give my position to my son, and then the problem is there are players, individual players, who are going to be paying this price. So like, you're right. They broke the rules. It's hard for me to argue against that. My assumption is that the rules were set pretty clear, with the punishments being pretty clear also. That's all fine and good. Just because, and I find this to be generally just kind of unsatisfying way to argue with people, because it happens a lot in outside of sports too, where it's like, but you knew the rules.
Right.
Like, just because you knew the rules, it's like, and this is an extreme example, but it's like Rosa Parks sitting in the front of the bus. Like, you knew the rules. Yeah, we knew the rules, but the rules were fucked up. So, like, obviously this is not nearly the same, but just to illustrate my point, just because they know what the rules were and they broke the rules, whether it was civil disobedience or just stupidity, which in this case is stupidity, does not change the fact that when unjust rules or unfair rules are exposed, it's okay to say that they are unjust and unfair. And I don't suspect that Jameson Williams is going to appeal this down to a 0-game suspension, but you also can't expect me to sit here and be like, hey, fine, you broke the rules, you knew the rules, it's okay.
You really put me in a corner there, because how am I supposed to disagree with you now? Now disagreeing with you, be anti Rosa Parks. Real tough spot for me on that one.
My bad.
No.
I mean, I could never mind. Go ahead. I was gonna go a whole nother way to make you more comfortable, but it was just gonna get real bad.
No. The next thing, the bigger thing is, I actually was looking at the larger thing, because it's sort of crazy that there haven't been bigger gambling scandals in the NFL in the past. Because you look at the Black Sox, you look at Pete Rose, you look at Henry Hill fixing college basketball games, Tim Donaghy, Connie Hawkins getting unjustly banned from the NBA theoretically. These are like, or Inter Milan getting kicked out of Serie A for gambling. Major stars, major scandals that affected the competitive balance of games. And if that's what's looming for the NFL, does that even really matter? I mean, all of those sports seem to be, I guess we're looking at this from the 100-year view, largely unaffected by this. I guess you could say the NBA, people still NBA rigged. NBA is more about the drama that is on the court. NBA is not competitive, but it seems to be more popular than ever in totality, and its impact on the internet. So is that what's going through agents' heads? the league's heads, NFL owners' heads that, okay, we're going to deal with this. We'll weather the storm. This is the reality we live in, and it largely doesn't matter.
Well, first of all, I guess it's because you wore your glasses today. I appreciate the research that you brought to the program, um, uh, because some of those I had completely forgotten about. But yeah, I mean, I think that's what it boils down to, honestly, is like the evaluation is that the money that they're going to make is worth it and that it won't stick to them. And that's why they're doing what they're doing. And I think that they're probably largely right. I do think that what I find interesting is what happens when it does happen. Is how do they handle it? Given their history of covering things up in the past, would they try to cover it up? Like, let's say the most extreme example is like a Super Bowl game is like being fixed by a player, and there's like, I guess maybe they're smart enough to know that covering it up would be worse, maybe, but I wonder what would have to happen, because if it's a regular season game, it's not going to stick to the league. It's not going to hurt the league. What would have to happen for it to actually hurt the league? And I don't know that there is a case. If it happened in the Super Bowl, we'd be back the next year. Nobody's going to stop watching. Nobody's going to stop betting. They're just going to try to bet on the right side.
This is a really dumb question, but can anyone but a quarterback fix an NFL game? Like, it feels like there's so many moving pieces.
Well, I mean, you could tilt the dynamics.
Yeah, you can point shave a bit. Yeah.
Yeah, you can't, like, a quarterback absolutely can fix it. But I mean,
a lot of the longest yard.
Yeah, I mean, missing a tackle, giving up a big play on defense, giving up a sack on offense, and fumbling on offense, missing a block. Like, there are lots of ways that I think you could. I guess it's really hard, though, because in basketball, you have so many touches that you can balance it out. Like, in football, you might only get targeted a couple times. And if every single time you're targeted, you give up a touchdown, maybe people would catch on.
Yeah. It's, hold on one second. Dobby's barking. Okay, I think we're good. Maybe not.
We can't hear him. I can't hear him.
Okay, you can't hear him? Okay. In that case, all good. Okay, so assuming that games can be fixed, and this is like a large issue for the league going forward, where do you think this goes? Do you think there's clarity? Do you think there's, obviously we're going to see more suspensions coming, but do you think there's a world where the NFL softens their stance on this stuff?
No, never. I don't see them softening their stance on this sort of stuff at all. Why? What's the motivation to do it? There's to make us happy, or not even. I don't think people actually care about this. They point out that it's unfair. They're not. So, like, I guess the only point of softening it is maybe if there's too many suspensions. Like, if they feel like they can't control it, it's like the marijuana argument, I guess, is like, it's become accepted mainstream and guys can use it without becoming like criminally mischievous or whatever the assumption is from the Reefer Madness documentary back in the day. And it ends up having a stain on the league if they have to announce every day that we got a drug suspension, or 10 people from this team are in the drug program. So I guess that's the way I would look at gambling, is the same way that we look at marijuana. Is they'd rather not have it in the league at all. But the only way that it becomes a problem, the only way they soften the rules is if it becomes a problem for them. If they get to a point where they can't control these minor things like betting on college games from inside the facility, then they'll soften the rules, because suspending 10 guys a season for this, then it makes the league look like a gambling league where you can't trust the outcome of the games.
And that's, I mean, first of all, little piece of advice to all of you NFL players who want to gamble on college football or college basketball or the NBA: use a proxy. Skip this. Don't use your own account. Don't be like, Calvin Ridley at DraftKings.com or whatever it was. But in all actuality, the concept that you laid out of the games feeling less legitimate, I'm sort of torn on that. I think it feels less legitimate for the bettors, right now. And that's the big fear for the NFL. Like, oh shit, we could lose this gambling money if people don't want to bet on these games because they don't feel it's legitimate. But for me as a fan who does not bet on these games and genuinely does not care about the betting lines, I would be very bummed out if the NFL got to an unsavory point where it felt sort of like professional wrestling, where there was stuff that was outcome determinative. And that's the part where I find myself sort of agreeing with the league, where it's like zero tolerance policy now may be better for us long term.
I don't know. I mean, maybe. I get your point, and the way that you just always have to remember that they're a business that's motivated by profit, and that one of the most valuable things the NFL has is its brand. It's the way that we think about it, the image of it. So when they're saying the integrity of the game, yeah, they're saying the brand, and that when they are they have these uniform policies, they don't want anybody breaking the uniform policy. It's because they want the brand to be whatever. When they're punishing guys extra hard for off the field stuff, it's not because they care about the guy's behavior off the field. It's because they don't want to be viewed as the league of thugs or criminals or domestic abusers. And they've come up short in those punishments in the past, and they don't want to be the league. They'd rather be the league that is over punishing than a league that is soft on criminal behavior. So I think that's what it comes down to, is they're going to make the decision that protects their brand. And I think the only risk that the riskier side is seeming okay or light on the gambling, because then that impacts your brand. And then you could go the other way. Like I mentioned, you could go the complete other way where you're suspending too many people. So then every week there's a NFL gambling story, and then that seeps in to your mind. And that doesn't just, and that's the thing that I wanted to address. What you said is it's not just about how it impacts the gamblers. A large portion of people that are watching the game, or significant portion of people watching the game, are watching games because they bet on them. So that's going to impact the ratings. People talking about it because they bet on it. It's going to impact the popularity. The number of people who are engaged in it impacts the sponsors that want to be associated with you. All that stuff, they recognize that there's a chain reaction. So it's not just about making the professional gamblers or the weekend gamblers happy. It's about the overall image of the sport and its impact on the games. And
the last question I have is, I'm taking you back to locker room Domonique Foxworth.
Okay.
How mad would you be if a teammate was actually betting on games that you were playing in?
Oh, so hot. If I was mad, a team, I was thinking about if I lost a teammate because he didn't follow the simple rules.
Well, let's do it both ways. Let's do it both ways. If you follow the simple rules, but I'm talking about, and then push it forward to a big story. They're betting against your own team.
I mean, we're betting against our own team.
Hell yeah, because that's what matters. Betting for your team,
betting. Yeah, I was about to say we're all gambling every weekend. So yeah, it doesn't bother me if you bet on our team. It's fine. If you're betting against our team and he's playing on the team,
hell yeah, because that's what's going to happen in these theoretical situations.
I'm furious. It's hard to because you're throwing the game. I don't know, this is our livelihood, and depending on where you are in your career, it's how much success you have is directly tied to how much money you're going to make, and it's not the money aside. It's about dreams and opportunities. Me, I get hot at a team for tanking. That to me is the same. It's disgusting. It's worse if the organization does it because it's an overall thing. But if one player on my team is sabotaging us, I'd be sick. I don't know. It's hard to argue. It's hard to estimate how angry I would be, because you and I have talked about this before, how close I came to feeling like I made all the wrong decisions, because if I didn't get that second deal, I would have regretted playing in the playing in the NFL. Financially, I would have made the wrong decisions. And the idea that standing between the life I have now and some other less comfortable life is somebody trying to make the money that I'm out here trying to earn. You're trying to take a shortcut to get the money that I'm trying to earn. I'd be really upset.
Now, thinking about that in that perspective, Does that soften your stance on these stupid punishments if they're trying to nip all that stuff in the bud?
Nope. Nice try. Okay. Nice try. Nope.
I just wanted to think about it in all the different ways because I have a completely different view of someone who has ever actually had stakes in this.
You are all the way in your co-host bag today. You've done an outstanding job of forcing me to address all of the different ways to look at this. And the last one is the best one. And I didn't even defend it. I just said nope, because I would like to not be a hypocrite like I'm accusing the league of being. But yeah, I get your point. If you give me the option, would I rather them be softer on suspending these players, or and have someone eventually like throw a game that I'm in? Yeah, throw the book at everybody. Yeah. I would argue for the death penalty if you're gonna bet on some games, if I thought it would stand between me and the success, or me and having an honest opportunity to compete for what I feel like I deserve. So you win. Long way to go. You finally got me to be on the league side about something. It's me and you against Rosa Parks. Nice job, Charlie. Nice job.
Sorry, you're just supporting all those players who want a second contract.
Whatever. All right, man. I appreciate it. Roses and Thorns.
He's so good. How has Domonique been lately?
Bad or good?
Let's find out. This is Roses and Thorns.
Roses and Thorns time. What's up, Ashley?
You say that so enthusiastically, and because like literally he starts, he's like 3, 2, 1, and then he says it. It just always makes me smile and laugh. What are you looking off to the side for?
Oh no, I didn't know what you were about to say, but I'm enthusiastic. The countdown doesn't have to be enthusiastic, and no one hears the countdown.
I know, and I don't think, even though you're in media, you're not like an actor, you know, like so you go like 3, 2, 1, and then you're like, yes, let's do it.
Yeah, I mean, you have to give the people what they want. You don't want somebody who come on here who's
Roses and Thorns. Here's my wife again. Yeah. God, why is she back?
No, she's back because she's wonderful, and your tan is even darker than it was last week, which you went back to Miami with my girls and left me here.
If anyone has a condo they want to sublet us in Miami for the summer, then tweet it to him. Send it to his DMs, because he's working on using Instagram more, so maybe he's going to check his DM occasionally.
I'm working on it. I have been putting out some Instagram posts every now and then. It's just not for me.
Well, it's not posted stories that you've been doing.
Okay, yeah, it's not for me. There's some things that are for, like, actually, I haven't tweeted much either. I'm in a, like, the last year, I've been in a social media lull. It don't feel like it's for me. It's not where I thrive. It's not where I'm my best self. It's just
where are you your best self, baby? Where are you your best self?
I was gonna make a joke, but I'm not gonna make a joke.
Thank you for not making that joke, because I know what the joke was gonna be. Anyone who knows you knows what the joke was gonna be.
Ain't nobody
There's
laughing.
Certain things he says all the time.
I don't know where I'm my best self. I think lately, honestly, which is coincidental because I sent you an article about, or actually not really an article, a list of bad parent behaviors that I thought was funny. But I think lately, both of us, I think, are our best selves when parenting. I don't even know if it's the best self, but like,
for me, it's parenting with a cocktail.
Yes, yeah, that's what you believe. I disagree with that wholeheartedly, but the point is, I don't know. I feel like there are times when you feel like you killed it at your job, or like you're really, I think lots of people can relate to this, or you feel like maybe you're a really good spouse or partner or friend. And I don't feel like often I hear people talk about how they just parented their ass off. And I feel like the last month or so, I've been in my parenting bag. I got all the moves.
You haven't.
I can't be stopped right now. I would think that I might put up more points than I've been putting up and get more wins than I've been getting. However, playing my ass off out here right now, and I came off so
you can't be stopped. You're playing your ass off, but you can't be stopped.
That's true. Well, I think it's unfortunate that we're not winning, but I got some big time playoff performances that people are gonna talk about, like when Jordan went for 63 on the Celtics and still ended up losing. I don't remember it either. I just remember
I
from
wouldn't say
watching
we're
Come
not
Fly With Me.
winning in the ways, like I feel like we have had some wins. We're making progress, which is nice. But yeah, no, so he sent me this thing that was like, and it sounded like so many of them were written by people who have never had a child, but it was like, I'm bad at like was it from Reddit? It was like a bunch of like,
somebody had like cherry
tweets.
picked a bunch of Reddit posts about behaviors that bad parents exhibit, and I read through them and recognized a couple of them that I used to exhibit.
I was so proud that
before.
I didn't recognize more of them though. Like honestly,
yeah, I mean,
when
it's not a comprehensive list.
Passive aggressive thing. I was like, he's found me on. Let's say there were 30 posts. I was like, he thinks he's found me on at least 20 of them. You know what? Let me be prepared to show him all the reasons he's wrong. And I was like, oh, okay, I identify with like 2. The rest, I'm kind of with you, even though I think I give so much grace with parenting. Like, so really, like, there's not much that someone could do that I could witness where I'd be like, you're a bad parent. Like, I'd be like, what happened before this? Like, what's going on in your life? Like you grabbed up your child in a way I might not. Like today I was driving and a woman, it was in like a white neighborhood, like on the way back from dropping Avery off. And a woman was putting in by herself and there was nowhere like nearby. So let's say maybe she lived in an apartment or something, or maybe she was coming from dropping another kid at school. No matter what, she was parked at least like 2 blocks away, like, because there was nothing right there, like, so either she just got in her car or she was just getting in her car for the morning, or she was just getting back from dropping an older kid or something at school and was coming back with a toddler who she was trying to put in. This was the one place where I could see fault with this. She was trying to put her toddler in. It's because she was parked on a one-way street. So her driver's side door was in the street and her toddler was behind her. So she lifted a car seat in and then was trying to get her toddler to walk into a street. And it was kind of a busy street, but she was holding the car seat and she, so she was struggling. And she said, if you don't get your fucking, and yelled it, she's a Black woman on the side here. If you don't get your mother over here, I'm trying to bleep. I'm editing while I talk before I beat your little behind. And it was loud because my windows were up and I heard this whole comment and I was thinking like, thank God, I think I'm the only one who heard this comment, because like otherwise, and yes, she shouldn't say
or unfortunate that no one else heard this comment because you wasn't going to jump in and save this poor baby.
Like she didn't put the hand, like she made sure he got there safely. Like yes, she was verbally insulting. Like she made sure the little boy got there safe, because I was thinking I'm gonna just wait and not pull off because I don't want someone to pull behind me and this boy's walking the street. But then no, she went and got him and she was gentle and she was whatever. Her language was abrasive, but I didn't say like, she's an awful mother. I said, well, God, no one else heard her. And 2, like, what just happened? She at least has walked 2 blocks carrying that little thing with this little boy. Boy who looks so well taken care of, like, being and she's buckling him in and putting him in a car seat. I give all the grace and assume that's
I think being a parent is probably a reflection of just about everything else in the world. Is it's different once you do it. Everything, and since this is a sports show, so often I hear people talking about, oh yeah, you should just make the layup. It's real hard to make a layup. Like, don't pass interference. It happens sometimes. They're asking you difficult things. I watched a boxing match this weekend with my brother, and he was telling me a similar story about being at a soccer game with his daughter, and it's like a white lady just snapped on her kid, and like it's so weird that we have like been socialized so quickly. I don't know any other things that have the like general public's opinion on it has changed as rapidly, or like the way that we feel about it too has changed really rapidly. Because I remember when I was a kid, I got hit, other people got hit, kids got threatened, and it was no big deal. It was like this is parenting. And now, like, if I hear somebody like talk about hitting their kids or like threatening their kids, or actually see somebody hitting their kids, which I haven't really seen, it's like my brother, who's not like gonna go jump in and interfere or nothing, he was like, he told me like, I felt like I should step in. And then eventually the lady stopped, and I was asking, did any of the other parents do anything? And he was like, no, they probably called. They probably had somebody waiting for her at her house when she got home. They didn't step in at the moment, but
I still have like friends like of mine, people who I respect and from this area. So I don't know if it's like a geographic thing, because some are maybe more from the South, but even friends like in this area, and some people say we're the South, we're in DC. So, but like people in like Maryland, Baltimore area who will talk about and like publicly on their, or maybe they have a private Instagram page, but on social media, like plucking their kids. So it's like not hitting, but it's like stuff that like adjacent, and maybe less painful. And so I do think that there are plenty of people who still maybe don't hit and certainly know better than to be very open about it. But I think that some people are still more comfortable with certain, I don't want to say corporal punishment because that sounds so bad, but certain slightly physical things, or like pulling them, like grabbing an ear, even like
a former teammate of mine. So when I went to the Quells for that cookout, I was with a bunch of like college teammates. And one of my teammates was like, "Yeah, I popped my kids." And I was like,
popping. Yeah.
Like, what is the okay? Hey, do you?
Yeah, different strokes for different folks. But I do remember. So my brother's a lot younger than me, and he was a 3 girls and a boy. And he was kind of rough. One time, me and Kai met up with my parents. So we went to Maryland, and my parents live in DC, and like go out in the Maryland suburbs. So Kai and I, for some reason, were like not that far away from where Alan, my dad, and my mom and my little brother were eating. It was like a Fridays or something, or Rockville Pike. And so me and Kai were like, "Oh, we'll meet you at Friday." And somehow we get in the middle of like my dad like fighting, and let's say my dad, right? Him and Peyton. Let's say I was probably like 21. So Peyton was like maybe 8 or 9, I guess 9. And so like kid, but like Peyton at 9 was a handful. If me and Kai were just like, we can't let him get arrested. Like, you gotta stop. You're in a white suburb. Please go home, Alan. And he didn't get arrested. Everything was okay. But I'll say there was one bad parenting thing that I almost, in that list she sent, that I almost identified with, but then not quite. But then I was like, actually, so I don't know if you remember, but I can't remember what it was. Oh, my son wanted some ice cream the other day. So he wanted some ice cream the other day, and I was like, oh, okay. I can't remember. I had made a good dinner, and he liked like the protein of it, but I was lazy on the vegetable. I can't remember what I made, but he really liked like the meat part of it. It was fried chicken sandwich, I think. So
by the way, it was delicious. But just a parenting note for us both to remember. I made him some spinach the other day, cooked it, and he was like, "Just give me raw spinach." Ate like a fistful of raw spinach. I didn't do anything to it. So like from now on, just a fistful of raw spinach. They don't want
dressing. My kids hate dressing. So this was the problem. Our babysitter had mixed the Caesar salad bag for us because I was like, I made these fried chicken sandwiches. Like, screw it, we're just gonna have salad. So I bought a bag of Caesar salad. Our babysitter mixed it. But when I mix, if I buy salad bags, when I mix them, I don't put much dressing on, or if any, because I know the kids don't like it. But she put all the dressing in, so it was like very wet, like way too much dressing comes with those. So it was really wet, so he didn't like it. But I didn't realize he hadn't eaten any. So at first I was getting like he loves Jenny's gooey butter cake, so I was getting the gooey butter cake ice cream out, and I was like, oh yeah, go ahead, eat some of your salad first. And he was like, but hold up, but you already said I could have the ice cream. So this is where it starts, right? So then like he just got a little disrespectful in his tone, and I was like, and he'll say to me, and he's not wrong, he's like, so the way you're talking to me, the tone you have is the same tone that I had at you, and you're saying it's bad. And I'm like, so I'm just quiet, like we're not arguing. He just like said that, and then I was like, you know what, Declan? I was like, did you get me up this morning? Did you feed me this morning? Give me breakfast? Did you make sure I got to school on time? Do you make sure that my tuition is paid? Do you, pick me up and take me to my activities? Do you care for me? Do you put me to bed? Make sure I have a safe, warm, clean home to sleep in. Do you? And then I was like, I hate to say this, but did you bring me into this world? And he said, so this is on that list. It said bad parents say things like, I put a roof over your head and I gave you life. So that's what I identify with. But here's how it was an awful bad parent move / it was turned back on me. This little evil genius says to me, and like it really left me stumped. He was like, yeah, Mom, you do all those things for me. You must love me a lot. You love me more than anything in the world, huh? Me and my sisters. And I was like, yes, Declan. So all I want is for you to love me. And if you love someone, you respect them. You love me more than I could ever love you. You're my mom. You do all the things you brought me into the world, and you can still talk to me like that? If you love someone that much, how can you talk to them disrespectfully? And you think that, like, no offense, but you do love me more than I love you. It's impossible for me to love you that much. I love you a lot. And you can talk to me like that? The person you love most in the world, or one of the people you love most in the world. So how can I learn to be respectful if you can talk to me so disrespectfully? The person you love more than anything. Like I was just like,
yeah.
Like I was like, and so I just turned around, but luckily I had been doing just kind of like not engaging a lot, which is I think a parenting pro tip. And so I only engaged just to say that, like, because I was like, when he was acting all talking disrespectfully, I was just kind of letting go. But then I re-engaged, say that, and I was like, kept your mouth shut. This is why parents shouldn't say things like that, because your kids can come back and say things like that to you, and then you have to go back to disengaging, largely only because I had nothing to say. Like he was like, "You're right, Mom. You're right." And so how can I learn to sound more respectful to you when me, the person you love more than anything? And I was like, well, you and your sisters. So parenting fail. So that was the one that, especially recently, I was like, damn, I just tried that, a line similar to that last week, and it was a fail.
Yeah, he's definitely taught me something that I think I've known and read, but never really adhered to. It's like, when you're in a like debate or argument with somebody, you've already lost. Like, you're not going to change anybody's opinion, like not that way. Like, the way that you change people's opinion is not with like direct confrontation, trying to get them to admit that they're wrong. And I've fallen into that trap way too many times, where it's just like, you just feel like you have to say, like, something has to be said. He needs to hear this, and he hears it, but then he only hears it for the purpose of like trying to twist it on you. And
he, a lot of times I like see what he's doing. I mean, I saw what he was doing, but I'm like, okay, like that's a weak, line of. Yeah. But that one, I was like, oh, yeah, true.
Got me. Maybe I should.
I'm like, who taught him that love and respect are the same, or that they go hand in hand? I didn't need him to learn that yet.
That one jumped out on a list too, and like, defend your kids at all costs is like another one that I feel like applies to this household. But I don't actually think that's a bad thing. I think it's hard to be honest, or at least be honest with your kids, because you're in public or out in the world. It's like, yeah, I got your back. It don't matter what you did, I got your back. But once we get home in private, we're gonna have a conversation about the things that you did, or the things that you didn't do, or the things that were done wrong. But like,
that wasn't actually one that jumped out at me, and it's something that honestly, like, I had to get better at, because I think like just part of like, this, I'm one of those women that you hear about who just sorry too much. Like, it's easy for me to say sorry and apologize and move on. And I found myself doing that on behalf of my kids a lot. Like, if another little kid comes up and says, your kid took my this, like, I'm not about to argue with someone else's child. And so I'll be like, oh, give it back, or, oh, say sorry. And it's like, well, I shouldn't encourage my kids to apologize all the time. Like, when they may very well, like, why am I trusting someone else's child over my child? You know what I mean? So like, that's something that I think I actively had to do better. And so, and like, if you're not going to defend your kid, like, who is? I'll be quick to be like I was somewhere and some grown man tried to say something to one of my children, like, who was there with his child, that fun climbing place in Laurel, and try to say something about like, my kid had too many turns on something. And I was standing right there. So like, and he really hadn't. Like, every kid was going up more than once. Like, it wasn't very crowded that day. Then it turned out his kid was too small to do it anyway. They just wanted to like point and giggle at it, like, and not actually do the activity once my child was done. And excuse me, like, you don't talk to someone else's child. So I'll but with other children. And like, when there are issues with other children, sometimes like, I do just want to like say, oh, okay, sorry, sweetie, like, baby, give that back, or your turn's up. But
my oldest one, I feel like, is trying to encourage her to like, I think she's gotten better at this, but like, generally be more assertive is a hard thing to do. The younger two, we don't have a problem with either of them. They
actually, the time I was talking about when I wanted to be like, excuse me, because I was like, it was with Declan. I was like, Declan, what did that man say to you? Because I couldn't hear the whole thing. And he was like, Mom. And I saw Declan face in the back. And I was like, I took care of it. Like, no, like, you don't even talk to this adult, but you don't even talk to my son.
Did I tell you about
no, it's fine. I told you about
this. Did I tell you about the soccer practice? It was I guess like a month ago, they had a outdoor soccer game, and they went to the field, and there were a full field game of like pickup soccer, grown men, all speaking Spanish and like playing intense soccer. And Declan got there and was like standing like right on the sideline. And it's like, I'm standing back a ways. Declan and like one of his friends are standing there right on the sideline. And the guys like do like scoot hands, like try to shoo him back and say, back up, don't get hurt. And Declan wasn't having that, because he was like, we rented this field. He don't know what we rented or whether we did it or didn't. We rented this field. Why don't you? It's like telling them that they
I
should
mean,
get off
he's
the
right.
field.
It is preserved.
Yeah, he was absolutely right, but like
no, I know.
And it's like I saw the guy doing it, and I wasn't like I didn't like that, but like I get the point. Guy was just saying like back up, don't get hurt. So I was coming down the hill to be able to tell Declan like, yeah, stand back, don't get hurt, let the adults handle this. We'll talk to them about whatever and get them off the field. You don't need to handle. He's like, nah, I got this. We rented this field. I need you guys off. We have to do our 10-year-old soccer game. Thank you very much.
Yeah, he stands up for himself. You sent me another article that actually I had seen that was funny. I don't know if we have time to talk about it, but there's not much to talk about. But in addition to parenting, it was like sex positivity and like elderly people, which was at first when I saw it, I was like, oh, I don't want to see this. But then I was like, you know what? Like, I'm gonna be old before long. Like, good, start normalizing this. Like, why shouldn't like? And I think like through images like that, it can be. Honestly, though, seeing like any sex scene creeps me out. Like, you know this. I'll be watching, and I watch like very ABC, weird. like Grey's Anatomy. Oh, this is a lot. Like, why? Like I'm not someone who can watch porn and enjoy it. Like, I'm just like, why do I want to see other people having sex? Like, that's strange. Or even like very PG versions of other people having sex. But I think I think that's great because I hope to be.
I don't know if it's just when I turn 80 and it's like another reason why social media isn't for me. Instagram, like I did a good job of curating my For You page to not have no thirst traps on it. Cause like I don't need that in my life. But every couple of months, Instagram's like, I know what you like. And it throws some thirst traps up there and catch me for a second. And I noticed recently when I've been on there like scrolling that just an idea of like this story was about an artist who's like taking like I guess intimate photographs of people over in their 70s and older and trying to normalize like the sexuality of elderly people. And it struck me because I was thinking about when I'm scrolling and how I have this weird reaction now where it's like clearly very sexy pictures of attractive young women where it's like I can appreciate that the pictures look good, the women look good, but it's not the same because
they don't have gray hair.
Yeah, they're babies. It is like I know they're 19 or 20 or 25 or whatever, and I guess there is no official cutoff in my brain, and I don't know when this switch hit where it's like when someone has an overtly sexual post that my first thought is not like, oh, that's sexy. My first thought is, how old is this girl? It's not good, and I'm not trying to act like I'm like holier than thou. I certainly see some pictures where I'm like, damn. I mean. But for the most part,
it just on my Explore page. That's what it's called, Explore page, not For You page. Jalen Hurts, because he was just in Essence. There's a whole lot of Black women posting this Essence stuff of him. And it's about his love of Black women. So like that's why it's like Black women are really feeling it. The article. And so how old is he? Do I need to be grossed out that he's on my Explore?
Oh no. You don't have to be grossed out.
He's
happy
fully
for
clothed.
You
don't have his butt cheeks out like people on your page probably do.
Yeah, it's a lot of, and it's always like ass too. Like it's not even.
They know what you like. They need big butts and gray hair, and they're gonna steal you from me.
Nah, I ain't going nowhere.
Ooh, my light just got really bright out of nowhere. I don't know if you could see it.
I have nothing.
Okay, well,
you have nothing to worry about.
Try not to go anywhere. But no, I actually, when I saw that, I was like, Domonique probably really likes this because of your gray hair fetish, the elderly.
Oh, yeah.
No, I mean, it didn't do it for you.
it didn't do it for me, but it
wasn't the same as seeing the girls on your Explore page.
It's just a beautiful sentiment, I guess, is into your 70s or whatever. You know, like that. I always hear that the like old people homes
have a lot. There was a Grey's Anatomy episode about that just 2 episodes ago.
Yeah, they be having
shit them, was going around.
They call them VD in the old people home.
I know, I was gonna say syphilis, but I have no idea what it was in the episode. But chlamydia, maybe, I don't know, something was going around. Speaking of Grey's Anatomy, tying that.
Speaking of Grey's Anatomy,
I'm worried, guys. I'm worried. Like, what are we gonna do?
Whenever I pop in there to watch the Grey's Anatomy,
that's number one.
Well, I watch it with you. I like don't recognize
anyone.
Very many of the people and the
who I realized the other day, the people who were still there, Miranda and Richard. It's the original Black castmate stay. I'm not making a racial comment about that, but I'm good for y'all for sticking by Shonda. Because no one else from the original show was there. They're the only two, and they were the only two, they were the two Black ones originally, and they've remained. But
they
so
have that
or
one,
about Shonda or about systemic racism, maybe there's like limited other opportunities. I don't know what's happening. But they're there, and I'm proud of them for it, and I'm grateful.
The Black guy who was homophobic, did he ever
work
again?
He got kicked off a long time ago. We forgot Isaiah Watson.
Did he ever work again?
We don't talk about him. No, but you know what I saw? Actually, I don't think he had like a robust career after that. But I saw something recently where he was like, you know what, y'all, when I'm retired from acting, like this was in the past like 6 months. Like he put out an announcement about this. And it's like, weren't you retired a long time ago when you stopped getting jobs? But so back to my original point. So Grey's Anatomy, 1, I'm worried. 2, I remember, so what's like 20 years ago now, that when, again, I don't like any sex scenes. They're all kind of like, I'm like, ew, like that's weird. Why do I want to see this? But I remember when Grey's Anatomy first started, was the first show that I remember at least where I would see like sex scenes, or like not real sex scenes because it's network TV, but scenes between like same-sex couples. So like 2 men or 2 women. And I remember the first time I saw it, I almost got teary-eyed. I was like, this is so beautiful that like, you know, we're able to show this, you know, like, and that people are showing this. But also I was like, but you don't like no sex scenes. So you don't dislike this because it's 2 men or 2 women. You are weirded out by it because it is what it is. So then I was like, you have to like, it's just too intimate. I'm seeing people that intimate with each other. I'm like, that's like private. But so then anytime I would see it, I would try to be like, don't look like you're, even though like no one's looking at me while I'm watching, but I'm like, don't look like you're weirded out because it seems homophobic to be weirded out by this. But with his a male-female couple, I'm like, ew, this is gross. But it got to a point where like, the first time I noticed it, I thought it was so beautiful that like they were showing that. And then it got to be like, okay, like don't act weirded out. Then it was like, you're just because you're weirded out by all like intimacy scenes. But then it was like, no, like they're all the time now in a lot of different TV shows because it's network TV. Our kids will come in when they're on. And there's like no weirdness around it. And that's how it should be. Like, it's like back when we were like, when I started watching Grey's Anatomy, it was in my 20s when I first started seeing these things on TV. And like for our kids, it's been their whole life. And so like now like showing like intimacy between old people or talking about it in Grey's Anatomy's episode where there's like stuff going around, like normalize it, like make it so it's not weird, or it doesn't say, ooh, why does this woman like, why is she doing an art exhibit of like intimate photos of old people? Like make it normal. People are having sex. Like I might not want to see everybody's intimacy, but there shouldn't be, I think portraying it is, there's something nice about that. I
mean, I'll take a peek. All right. Good show.
Thanks, I didn't give you a rose. It was that you killed it parenting this weekend. I went to Miami with the girls. I'll give myself a rose. I killed it too. We were by the pool with our cocktails, killing it. Everyone having fun. And then, but you like with Declan, like you do a better job than I do of like planning activities, which is like nice. You prefer because it like keeps you guys busy. It's good for him. So like I saw, he just sent me pictures. There were football games, there was waiting, there was swimming at a friend's pool, there was cookie making, there was grocery shopping, there was cooking dinner. Like you guys did so many cool. I'm sure I'm forgetting things, but that's your rose. Your thorn is I hate your composting in the backyard.
And the composting that I'm doing in the backyard is because I love you and I want your garden to thrive. So I have started composting a few months ago, and it's for you. You're welcome.
Well, I don't know if it's going to help my garden thrive. I'm worried that it's going to attract rodents. That's why I hate it.
It doesn't. No, it can't attract rodents like it.
Why can't it?
Because the stuff like decomposes quickly enough that it won't attract rodents. It's fine. It's just like, I'll show it to you. The compost pile, like it has lots of bugs. But it really just turns.
I don't like bugs either.
It turns into soil really quickly, or like some really rich soil. It's not something that rodents would be interested in. But anyway, it is going to be the reason why you have the best garden on the street.
Do you think that rodents will be interested in my garden?
No. I mean.
Okay, good. That just crossed my mind. I was supposed to say maybe we need to cancel that. Okay. Love you. I'm happy I'm home. I've missed you while I was gone.
Love you too. Thank you for joining us. And also thanks to Adi Khan, Christina Buswell, and Sarah Abbott for making this magic.
This is the Domonique Foxworth Show.